Talanoa, podcast about three guys from Poirua talking about stuff, mainly health and well-being, but a whole lot of contemporary sort of issues in that as well, and always looking to engage. I'm Shane. I'm here with Te Are. Apologies for our brother Te Ho, who's away at the moment, but us two are holding the fort. So welcome, everyone. How are you, Te Are?
Yeah, mei taki there, Shane. Kia ora tātou kātou tō te opo. I'd just like to introduce our guest for tonight, who hails all the way from the Ruatuki, sorry. May pronounce that wrong, but hey, tēnā koe, Phil.
Kia ora, tēnā kōrua.
Yeah, malole soifua lau whionga. How are you, Phil?
Oh, great, mate. It couldn't be any better, especially to have two great guys to talk to.
Oh, it's a good start. That's a really good start.
So I know you as Sir. So, Sir, if you would like to share maybe your pipiha, and then we'll flow on from there.
Kia ora. Kia ora tātou, ko Phil Marshall toku inua, ko maunga poatu te maunga, ko Ohina Mataro te awa, ko ngā marae katoa o te whārua o Ruatoki e ki ana ko ngā marae, ko Ngāti Hāmua, Ngāti Rongo, Ngāti Maru, me te māhurihuri, ngā hapu, ko tūhua te iwi. Kia ora tātou.
Malo.
Oh, kia ora ana, kia ora ana. Yeah, so thank you for sharing your pipiha there, Sir. So I think we're going to start off with obviously you're born in Ruatuki.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
yeah, well,
share where you start from.
Yeah, I want to go through from 1956, mate. I was born in a little place called Ruatoki, in which we call a whārua, a valley. I was born in a house. I'm not quite sure whether my parents forgot to take me to the hospital to get me born in the hospital, but there was two of us in our family that were born in a house at Ruatoki. We moved out of the valley, when I was 2, we moved to a place called Taneatua. My father was milking cows, as he goes through. And I think it was about 4, we moved into Whakatane. All that was due because, the urban drift. There was, even though you had a house that you could live in, you couldn't upgrade it or anything else. So the whole idea was to get you out of that country living that you had and move you into a town. And that's what happened to us. And at 4, we moved into Whakatane. And from there, things got a bit, hectic, going to school. My first language was Māori.
Right.
And going to school and, getting told, when you're speaking, it was really good because there was a couple of people that spoke Māori at our age. So we ended up talking to each other in Te Reo. And of course, the Pākehā school teachers, somehow or other, you didn't notice it, but they thought you were talking about them. Even though you were only trying to converse because that's the only language you knew. Mm-hmm. And so, from there on, my parents, you go home and tell them that you got a growling because you're speaking Māori. And I don't think they liked it. It's not because they didn't like it. They just, from there on in, even though I was one of the last ones out of our family of, let me put it this way. I'm from a family of 20. My mother and my father had 15 of us. And my father had 2 older ones and 3 younger ones.
Wow.
After us. I'm not quite sure whether it's hereditary breeding or whatever it is, but, that's how it was. But so, I went to school, Whakatane.
Right.
I went to Apanui school, Apanui primary school. And then ended up when I was like Form 1, Form 2, you used to go straight to stay at primary, but then they opened up an intermediate school when I got to intermediate. So, foundation student at Whakatane Intermediate. And, the biggest thing about all these schools you had to go to, big families, my mother and father had to buy uniforms for every school. So, when you were the 5th or 6th, those jerseys and shorts and socks get handed down to you.
Right. So where were you in the line?
In the pecking order of us 15 from my mother and father, there's like 1, Bruce, Mary, Sam, John, me, 6.
Oh, sure.
Only six elders. So, after me, you can understand there's a whole lot of the young boys, and that's, they were, So, it was, I'm not quite sure I liked school, but I did end up going to high school. And I think most of the time I liked going to school, but the biggest thing I liked going to school is because I was in the second 15 in the third form. So, I didn't stay long enough. I only finished in the fifth form.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it could have gone a bit further, first 15. But it was at that time, rugby was strong all over the place.
What was your original position, Phil?
Oh, flanker. 6 or 7, playing rugby, and I played that. Like I said, I cut out some of the stuff, because in between I was doing martial arts as well. But when I first moved to Wellington, I ended up playing for in early 70s. I was 17, I think it was, and I played. Me and my brother played rugby for Pornicky under 21s.
Oh yeah, Pornicky, eh?
And that lasted a couple of years until we played Rungatai College in a warm-up game pre-season, and got out of hand, and the referee got a bit of a docking from my brother. So we got suspended from playing rugby, and then that's how we end up getting to league into St. George.
Right.
That's
how it started.
Yeah. So the story of sport, it was a big issue in our family. Sport was really great, big.
So back at home, so you obviously you went to intermediate and that, and like you said, you played second 15 for the college. I heard you're also a master in the touch side of things. Up those ways.
Yeah, I started playing touch in Wellington here when it first started. It used to be 9 aside, 7 aside then. And we used to play it at Johnsonville.
Okay,
Johnsonville, Newlands College, I think it was. Newlands, no, Johnsonville. I think it was Johnsonville. And St. George had the teams, and us and Tama, we were playing as more of a cowboy touch because everybody was just feeling how they played.
Fun. Yeah,
and then it grew from there. That's in between. It wasn't until I started playing league that I started playing touch. For St. George.
Okay.
So, that was about the 80.
Oh, I thought you represented Bay of Plenty and all that jazz. And
that was much like I went home. I went home to Whakatane in 84 after playing for St. George for 10 years, and I went back in 84 and ended up playing touch up there for Bay of Plenty, and of course I played for New Zealand as well. But I played all the way. Whakatane reps, all the representative teams that you can find around the Bay Plenty and touch. And it was great sport. It suited me because touch is the same as playing league, except league you tackle. Yeah. And it suited me the game.
Look, you definitely, Phil, you're one of those pioneers in that early part of touch, particularly as it started to take off during the 80s. What was some of, what was that sort of like in terms of at the beginning of that? Because, touch has gone on in terms of, and then now evolved with things like flag and that. What was, it was pretty new at the time and people were still getting used to it coming from the winter sports and that. So, what was that environment like in terms of particularly yourself as a pretty top player?
Well, it was great. Like I says, we made it easy for us because it was just similar to playing league. So when we first started playing, it used to be 9 players and 7 players. Now it's 6, and there was a whole lot of rules have changed since then. In 1988, I got selected to play for New Zealand as the first World Cup in Australia. And I think there's a few of us, Alan Davey was like from Wellington. There's a whole lot of people. I just named them because we all know them in our circle. So, the rules of touch when we first went over to Australia, the World Cup, there was a whole lot of different countries, and each country put in a rule. See, like America, when they wanted to come in, they wanted to have a kick on the fifth and final touch. So the kick was introduced. And another team was you could throw a forward pass.
Wow.
Yeah, there was all a feel out to see to try and create so everybody around the world could be part of it without having to tell them this is our Australian New Zealand player, because that's
the
was our game.
Yes, yeah.
But see, like, and then later on, the Pacific Island boys, they were great at playing it because they're all playing up in Auckland, and it was a fair while before the island teams picked teams, and when they did, they became a force themselves. But in saying that, it's typical Australian New Zealand. We picked the best of the best, and then the rest dropped back to their countries. So we're still doing that now in league. So we take the best, and then you can say, well, now you can go back and play for Cook Island. Now you can go back and play for Samoa. Now you can go back for Tonga. But the tide is turning there as well.
Yes.
It is.
Everybody wants to represent their country.
Yeah, I think it's been good to see that in the last couple of seasons where players have made that commitment to sort of their heritage teams of sort of their heritage in that as well. I think players like Jason Tamalolo, I think, have really done credit to the game by doing things like that.
Yeah, and like he was the first, in a long row of the top players to say, well, I want to. I mean, that to me, that's the honour. They want to represent their country. I mean, there was a bit of backlash there, by saying, I don't think it was from the players. The players said, well, the only reason I know, because some of the players were saying, well, you got to tell us earlier so we can start working something out. And I think with Jason, it was the last month before the World Cup that he decided, where the Kiwis were already having him in frame for their team.
Yep.
And so they were disappointed at that last minute, and I think there was a bit of controversy about it. But at the end of the day, it was his choice.
Yeah. So there was something you tagged in there early in our Talanoa was around martial arts. What was Tiali and I talked offline coming into this around that. So tell us a bit more around your background in martial arts.
Yeah, I started doing martial arts in Wellington in the 70s as well, and that took over a lot of my my sporting face. Like, even though I loved league, and I know when I was playing with St. George that the club will pick you to play, get you ready for premiers and stuff, and you say, "Oh no, I got a tournament coming on." So that took preference.
Already, yeah.
Yeah, so I was trained in Wellington here by a guy called John Tauparai. In the late 90s and early 2000s, mid 2000s, I think it was. He ended up being the parliamentary speaker, for doing all the mihi, welcoming them, doing the motor. So, but anyway, right from that time in 71.
I was just born then.
Yeah, right. And then see, I represented New Zealand martial arts. There was no New Zealand body, but each lot of martial artists had their own group. Like Taekwondo had their group.
Oh, yeah. So your karate, was that your?
Yeah, ours was kung fu.
Oh, kung fu.
But it was stemmed from Shotokan and Kyokushinkai, two mixed up together.
Yes.
So, we travel around the country again. Of course, the part about it is that before that, I thought I was a bit of a gangster, and I liked fighting and stuff like this, getting into trouble, as a new mighty boy to the city. It wasn't because you liked it; it's just because it came your way. And so we started to discipline ourselves. We started, like me and my brothers, we started doing martial arts. And then all the younger brothers that came to Wellington, we told them, we're going to do this for you because we didn't want you to join the gangs.
Yes.
And I'm not saying what I did join the gang is I don't regret it one bit. It created some work for me to look at and saying, this is how I go forward. But it helped a lot. And I got no regrets about that. But the martial arts helped me to crave. Then in 75, we sort of John Tahu. There was a selection of New Zealand to New Zealand martial arts again, to go over to America in '76, and like me and my brother John were in the top echelon of the club, and with our criminal records when we were younger, the American embassy, American embassy says, "Well, we're not going to take both of your crooks. We're going to take one of you."
Oh, okay.
So I said to John, my brother John, "You go," because the year before I'd been to Australia representing New Zealand martial arts.
Yeah.
So I said to him, "I've already been overseas." That was my first trip overseas ever. Was from Wellington to Picton.
Oh, that was a long way too. That one.
That was on a ferry.
That was on the ferry. I was going to say, that on the ferry?
Yeah, my next overseas trip was 1977 or 75 to Australia. So
Yeah.
Hey.
What was that international competition like, Phil? In terms of what happened there, and sort of how did you find it in terms of an international competition?
I'm not trying to be show offish, but I thrived in it.
Mm.
Like it says, I liked fighting, but you could get away with knocking people out without having to get arrested.
Mm.
So we thrived on it, and like I say, it was good. It was good for the mind, good for the body, good for the soul, and so we continued doing that until and we've been training a lot of students up to go through. So, like I say, 1975, John Tohu decided to change the name from Tenchien Pai to Rangataua o Aotearoa. They're the Warriors of New Zealand.
ROA.
ROA, yeah.
ROA.
And the only reason he wanted to go that way is and we'll catch back on this is this te reo thing that we're going to be talking about later.
Yeah.
Is that Tohu says, why should I be teaching you Chinese or Japanese when you're never going to get there at some stage? But you live in a country where te reo Māori is the language. But not many people are willing to put it on a stage to speak it, So that's what we did in 1975, but it didn't come into fruition until 77. But
and you're still active with ROA too, eh, Phil?
Yeah. I don't train as much as I can. My back and my big whole muscles can't take it.
No, but you're still involved with the club. I see you supported one of your wahine's up in Gizzy not long ago. I think she was going to go overseas to compete somewhere.
Yeah, Ishta, she got picked from our club to go and be part of the Olympics for Muay Thai, which was a demonstration sport.
No, cool.
So they're talking about putting it into the Olympics, and she was our representative from our club, got selected to go over there as a demonstration sport to the Olympics. So the club has got a proud history in getting people to, like, every year for the last 4 or 5 years. We get the New Zealand Muay Thai Association. We're part of that. We get 6 to 10 of our kids from 10 to 16. We go over to Thailand.
Yes.
We fight in the junior Muay Thai champs. And so that's where a couple of our team members were the last couple of weeks fighting over in Thailand. And, they come back with good results, mixed results, but they go over there for about 3-4 weeks before the actual tournament starts, and they train with Muay Thai fighters over there. And we sort of help out with the, now and again, I might decide to put my body up as to be a bag holder or somebody to get knocked around and punched around by these kids. But it's, it's
sparring.
It's good. I mean, like with our sporting background, sometimes we can do a lot more things than we can do. Like, I mean, chat yourself, powerlifting and all that, So,
well, I know. Vern Winatana was involved with New Fellas Around. I ended up going to Whanake, Rangatawa, back in the day. Here's my CT.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that was we were all together, us and Vernon,
Yeah.
you know, and it was called Whanake Rangataua, and through some could be a miscommunication, whatever. The club split up, and then we took Rangataua Aotearoa, and Vernon took Whanake Rangataua. We still see each other every now and again.
Yeah.
And we used to fight each other. Yeah. So that's
Yeah, I remember going to a tournament and used to see the RRA boys back in the day, Lancer and all that.
Yeah. It was like it says, it taught a lot of those boys. It's just like league and any sport that you really chase. If you really like it and you chase it, it puts your mind somewhere else instead of going into trouble.
Correct.
And that's part of our health journey as well. That people talk about healthy bodies. You got to have a healthy mind as well to make sure that you can work these all out yourself. You know how much you can take, how much you shouldn't do, and then how much you shouldn't go do to somebody else. That sort of thing. So that's a mental thing as well to try and make this bit stronger.
I was going to ask you, Phil, exactly that. What across all those sports that you participated in, were you taking a little bit away from each of them in terms of playing that variety of sports?
Yeah, you got to admit that each one has got their own discipline. Even I played basketball. I wasn't the tallest of fellas, but I played basketball. I represented Whakatane, third division that is in Whakatane, which was all right. And we had good seasons there. I played softball here for St. George in Major A, major reserves here in Wellington. I played Major A up in Whakatane for Poroporo. So all those sports, each one of them can help you do the others. But the martial arts is the one that gives you the most discipline. Everybody talks about discipline as not to do stuff. Well, discipline can also tell you what to do and when to do it. So it's not about just we got in martial arts in our club this old whakatauki or saying ka rere te ringi, ka rere te tōringa, ka mau te riri. Ka rere te riri, ka mau te ringa. So if your fist goes forward, withhold your temper. If your temper goes forth, withhold your fist. So those sort of things that you carry through with you. So I'm not saying that you know how to do it, so and when not to do it. So there's you're right, Shane. It's all those disciplines that you come out with. It's really, really great.
No, it's great. So what was your highest sort of ranking belt in the martial arts?
In our club, me and my brother John were the top two. When Tau was number one, then me, John, and Takamaki were the same grade. When you go to these, just short story on the side. When you go to these tournaments, to go to aftermatch, what they call where all the black belts and senior black belts go. Sometimes they have a hui place that you have to be a certain dan upwards to enter, which is a very real staunch stuff that you got to be this. So we went to this aftermatch function one day, and the guy at the door says, you got to be a fifth dan or higher to get in here. And I asked him, I says, what's your dan? And he says, I'm a sixth dan. I said, well, I'm a seventh, bro. Let me in.
And then what? Did your fist go forward or your mind went forward?
I don't know. He had no choice because we were the head of our club. But when it came to grades or dans, we don't have that sort of thing. We only have Powhenua Manukura. So Powhenua is the highest. So Powhenua Matahi, then Powhenua Manukura, and all that comes down to grades. Okay. So we only have the Powhenua Matahi or Powhenua. So that's the top of our grade. So I said, what's your grade? When he said me, I said, well, I'm one higher than you, mate.
And just let you through, sir.
Well, he had to.
He wouldn't dare stop you. Hey, Phil, I was keen to talk back to, like you said, you played 10 years in terms of in Wellington, in terms of the late 70s and 80s, also during the period where, St. George won the championship and all that. Just what was your sort of what was your sort of memories of that period and playing Premier League in Wellington?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was hard. You had to. It was before, like you were still allowed to tackle here, really, but you weren't allowed to tackle here. I mean, the difference from here to here is not much. Hey, from here to here, it's not much. It's only that much.
That much.
You could, it's hard, and actually, really, it wasn't as fast as you play now, but it was physical, and that's why, like I always say, that's why our people loved it. They loved the physicality. They loved the bowl and brash and knock you down and pick you up, knock you down. I enjoyed those times. Like I says, I was glad that I had a good fitness grounding to continue. Like that put us in good stead, really, as young fellas. Because when we started playing, there was like as a 19, 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-old, you had fellas there that were in their 30s. They were still good, but they could knock the shit out of you, and you had to be able to stand up to them. And I tell you, I had played against a couple of my uncles, and they were playing for Murmur, and we were playing senior first, I think it was, and we played up Liardi Street.
Oh yeah.
And we hopped on a paddock, and Bistro Nohotima is his name, and Bert McLean. We running through, and I passed the ball to my cousin. And he got boom smashed, And there's from our two uncles. They don't say to you, they come up to you after they knock the shit out of you and go, while you're on the ground, go, "You right, boy? You right, boy? Come on, get up, boy."
And that's what you're doing now. That's what you're doing. Even though it's Masters.
Yeah, so that was the sort of introduction, but you had to stand up. You couldn't just not do anything. And at the times we were playing, as that league was really great. There's a whole lot of things that changed. I used to remember going up to Rugby League Park maybe a Wednesday afternoon and watching Auckland playing Wellington. Whereas a Saturday, going to Rugby League Park and the grandstand is packed. Wellington playing Canterbury or Taranaki, and then club league will be played on Sunday. And those same rep players that played on Saturday will turn up front up for your club game on Sunday. So the only thing that really thinged me was in 1977.
Yes.
When St. George won it, the last time they won it. I wasn't there. I mean, I was there, but I wasn't there.
Oh, you went on the paddock?
No, I wasn't even. I was playing rugby for Tawa.
I see. 1977 when the lads won the grand final.
Yeah.
So what
prompted you to be at Tawa in 1977?
My oldest brother Bruce, he was playing there, and he was sort of on the finish because he played for Pornick, but he moved, and he says, "Boy, can you come and play?" Like I was Bruce 70 something. He says, "Can you come play?" It's my last year playing senior football. I want to be able to play with one of my brothers at least. So I says, "Okay." I was trying to think who was Arthur Pico. Old Pico Arthur was the coach of Tawa. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but when I had free time, I'd go and try and sneak a game of league, and which you're not supposed to do, and that's why everybody thought that I was still playing league. Even I tell you, I mean, I'm not quite sure. It might be just a couple of boys. They thought I played as well, but no, they might have been all pissed.
No, it sounded like you were playing in that 77 final, but
well, I thought I was. It was great. It was great times, And I'm not talking about other clubs. I'm only talking about St. George. We had a club rooms in High Tide. Great club atmosphere, great whānau atmosphere. and you had to get dressed up to get into the club. You had to have, if you were playing, or especially premiers, you had to have a blazer in your tie to be part of. It was great.
What colour were the blazers back then?
Maroon.
Maroon, yeah.
Maroon.
I'm sure they were, yeah.
Oh, hockey used to wear, hockey.
Yeah, maroon with no collar.
No collar.
No collar. The shirt was over the top. The shirt collar. So the jacket had no collar, but the shirt had collar and it come down on top of the jacket. Yeah, the club was, well represented. It was rocking. Days of no license, no license bar.
No license bar. Jeez, it was the wild, wild west, wasn't it?
Oh yes, I can remember one day there. I think there was some agreement with the breweries, Lime Breweries at the Hut.
Yeah.
We were celebrating St. George Day, I think it was, or something. And so all the labels on lime brown bottles were St. George.
Oh.
With the white thing on the St. George on it. I think we got caught out, and there's pallets of beer in our club rooms, and I think we got found out about selling without a license, and I think about two, 3 pallets were confiscated.
Oh, jeez. So Tama talked about sort of 67. What is it? Things, dozens or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We used to get them in pellet crates, dozens of quarts. Yeah. And you used to get when you go and buy a beer, you don't buy one, you buy a crate.
The crate
on the bar. Take it to your seat.
Man, fun times, eh?
Oh yeah, those are the days when you could go to league grounds all around Wellington.
Yeah.
Natoni used to be a stronghold ground of Puru City.
Mm.
You'd know that. I mean, when you go to play a Premier game out there, and all you hear is the banging on that tin.
Banging on
the tin fencing game.
Yeah, it was magic. It was magic.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Intimidating to some, but magic.
Magic. So how far did you play into? Did you play before finishing up as a player? Oh
yeah, when I left here. My last 2 years here, Wayne Greenland was coaching, and I captained the team, and before I went back home to Whakatane, and 84, and then and then I got home. I played a year and a half maybe for Whakatane Sharks league team. They played in the Bay of Plenty comp. And I tell you, I didn't mind playing the game up there. It was really good. It was just, some grounds that they had no changing shed or showers. And you had to change in the bus, and then most were washing somebody's tap. As a sport, St. George fella, always having warm changing sheds at Rugby League Park or whatever ground you played at, and then you even got a crate of beer in your change sheds after. I wasn't used to just sitting around, and then having to, because our furthest travel when I was playing over there was to Rotorua. Yeah, and then after that, I sort of snuck in and played rugby with a club that I ended up finishing while I was up there for Pāroa Rugby Club. I spent a good 10 years with them, and then I started coaching. I coached Pāroa, and then I coached the place where I was from, Ruatoki. How your relations can be. Some of them go, bro, you're 30 now, you're over the hill, and you come back to want to play for your hometown.
I didn't realise Greenland coached the Dragons back then.
Yeah, he coached. I think it was my last year there. I think he coached us.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was lucky to play with those fellas.
Yeah.
Yeah, like with Wayne and Nolan and Tama and all those fellas. Great Nolan. Who else is there? There's a few others. Bruce Teddy.
Young Dave Tupaia, was it?
Yeah, well, young Dave Tupai, we were all working together on
yes.
New Zealand Freighters. I think he was only 15 when he played his first
Wow.
Premier game, but he was, he had this. If you ever look at their whole DNA, those two players, they were gifted football players.
Yep.
For a young 15-year-old or 16-year-old playing prop in Wellington,
Yeah.
You had to be exceptionally strong-minded up here.
Yeah. Dave was the link between that era to mine and Tiale's because he played for us in 1990 when we first came into senior football. Dave was
he a hooker?
No, I think he was playing prop for us.
Yeah, he's a prop, mate.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm sure he played a hooker somewhere.
He could have played there, but I don't think he would have liked it. He liked the collision.
Right. He was just sort of coming out then, or Dave was just retiring, Is that when the other townies come out too?
Yeah, he was just near that end of it, but he was. It was really beneficial for us, particularly going into football, because Phil, you mentioned playing Miramar. We played our first game as 19-year-olds against Miramar, and we learned some realities about senior football.
Yeah, there was some great clubs in Wellington, like your Miramars, your Marist, the Waterside.
Yeah, the suburbs.
Yeah. Eastern suburbs took over in the north. Then you still had a whole lot of clubs at the Valley. You had Taita, Nainai.
That's right.
And all those clubs.
Taita, the Warriors, isn't it?
I can't remember their name. Then you had
Corridale, yep. So we sort of were the tail end of that sort of nostalgic era. So we caught the end of it, but it really was a good time, and being sort of a young footballer coming around, and also having players who had played quite a number of years in Wellington Rugby League to play against, and it really gave you a bit of an education right up front.
Yeah, there were some really good players around, right to the 80s, in Wellington. You can you have like Marist, the Henry brothers, and they were tough as Teeks, and then you had those fellas from Wharfies like Lawrence Tikahika and all those, Ron Farrell, I think he was still playing it when I first started, those fellas that have been there, done a role that you could watch Colin O'Neill and like I said, I was mostly a young fella when they were like what David was to you fellas.
And then something we talked about with Tummer is that it was in an era, and we again caught the tail end of it, where you could play with players who had played either were current international footballers or had played international football. And so I guess it's a shame that players, in recent times don't get that opportunity that you would have got, because it definitely was a good experience, but it also sort of gave you an opportunity to sort of test yourself out in terms of what your abilities were.
Yeah, it was great. Like you're saying, you won't get that really anymore in club football in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Unless they retire, a Kiwi retires and comes back to play. That's very rare now, or present Kiwi. Like, in Wellington, you had clubs that had Kiwi players playing, still playing.
Yeah.
Like Wellington, we had in St. George, we had Philip Orchard, Nolan Tupai, a couple of others that were running around. Even whole in Wellington club football, you had players like your Patonis, your Uphut, your Ranwicks, that had current Kiwi players still playing, and it was good for them to play against them. It made you wise up a bit. They played really good. You have a look at just naming some, like you have a look at John Whitaker, underrated. He was. You didn't think he was doing much, but then you had. I think I can speak like this. Finlay Rasmussen, he was on his way up, but he was one of the best players that didn't make a Kiwi. So Wellington had that type of player. I mean, and then everybody talks about, unless you play for Auckland, you're not going to get too far. But in saying that in our era, every province had the opportunity to be where they want to be.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was at the beginning of the end of a lot of these players. They had the privilege of playing against some of them for maybe 4 or 5 years against them. So it was really it was good for me.
So after your playing years and so on, you got involved with the club again as a coach, president.
No, I came back in 2005, I think it was, or around that era. And and I want to, mind you, when I first came back though, I ended up coaching rugby.
Okay.
I ended up coaching Wainuamata Rugby.
I see.
Their premier side.
I was 2 in that team.
No, he wasn't.
No.
He didn't come in. He didn't come in until the year after.
Okay.
Because he was still playing down south and down Canterbury.
Oh.
That's what normally happens, bro. You forget to turn your phone off.
Yeah, sorry about that.
As you can see, we're really professional.
Sorry about that.
Wait, I'll tell you.
It's your brother.
They have these TV bloopers that happens at the best of places.
That's a fine.
I reckon.
Yes, we turn it off.
And that's why you're down the bottom of the page.
Yes, it's been really great. Like I've always sort of coached and played. Even when I was at home, I was if you ever heard of Matt Tapo, he coached New Zealand Māoris rugby.
New Zealand, yeah.
He was coaching in Whakatane, and he said to me, "You what are you going to do? Play a coach?" I said, "I play a coach." He goes, "I tell you, it's one of the hardest things to do. Become a player coach. You either coach or you play. You can't do both." So even though, like I put it this way, even though when I was playing, I was coach, referee, so coach, referee, player.
You were Cameron Smith before Cameron Smith.
Yeah. You said to find a way of talking to referees and talking to everybody else while you're playing.
So you coached, like you said, rugby Wainui back in 2005. Then when did you get involved with St. George again?
About 2006, 2007, I ended up coming back to be on the committee.
Oh, yeah, when we were set up in Porirua.
Yeah, well, I can't, trying to remember what year that club moved out to Porirua. I think it was 1990 or something.
Yeah, it's about 1989, 1990 it would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Tama did mention, because back then he had those 17s and all that.
Yeah. You see, like, a lot of the fellas that did play, they end up doing some form of coaching in some time. Yeah, I've always, like I was saying, I could have said it jokingly, but I've coached a lot of things in my life. Like even when I was playing, I was coaching like basketball, playing basketball, coaching softball, playing softball. Those team areas you could coach and play. Yeah, like I said, but rugby and rugby league, it's hard to coach and play.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So when you came back, did you coach the Prems at some stage?
No, I didn't coach any of the St. George teams when I come back. I wanted to, but you just can't come back and just decide that you want to coach somebody. You sort of got to come in and sort of pay the piper man again, and sort of work your way up again. But as typical of us Māori Polynesian clubs is that he can be chairman.
Oh yeah, so then what? You got thrown into chairman?
Well, yeah, I was only there to help out, and then any more nominations? Oh yeah, nominate Phil, and then somebody goes close.
Everyone goes, all right.
So,
and I tell you, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being part of the club because, like I says, this is a club that brought me up. This is a club that made a lot of things that I do, even though I had all these other sports to lean on as well. But this was a club that taught me a whole lot of stuff. In it, because like I said, it's one of the things I liked about it is this thing we talk about whanaungatanga. the club was brought up on that, where family could be part of. Doesn't matter who your families were, you were always welcome to be part of.
Yeah, well, that leads me to now. Right now, you're still involved with the club, but at a different level.
Yeah, 10 years ago, me and Hin sat down to talk about because they had masters and some sort of golden presidents or something going before,
rugby,
but it started going and stopped. Started going stop. And I tell you, the idea was first off was me and Hins decided to get people off the couch. Let's play this game called walking hold.
Okay.
Instead of tackling, you walked. Instead of running, you walked. Instead of tackling, you just held them. So we started playing this on 5-on-5, and we used to play it. We used to play it at Mana College on the netball court on the outside netball court on Tass Hill. But it was a good thing on the Tass. Yep. It was a good thing on the Tass Hill those days because there was no way you're going to dump anybody there. Hey, not on the Tass Hill.
Hold them.
Yeah, you got to hold them. And then after that got on. But while we had to talk about saying, let's start some, because I was already playing Masters, international. I'd go.
Oh, yes.
Been like 23 years, I think, the club St. George has been involved with it.
So you're involved with the international team at St. George. Yeah. That was basically managed by Uncle Johnson. Yeah,
Johnson very much, yeah. And there was a whole lot of others that started. Johnson took over after a while. There was Buddy Tyree and all those ones that were already involved. They set it up, and most of the ones that were playing Masters St. George were in Cambridge, Auckland, and then because when I was living in Whakatane, I shot across to play whenever I could.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was still going, and I was still playing that every year with St. George. But we wanted to start not a competition. I don't want to call it a competition because it was never about competition. It was about getting fellas off the couch. Because as you know, Shane, is that a lot of our people, once they finish sport, they sit on the couch, start getting fat cheeks, fat stomach, and then fat bumps.
I feel like you're looking at me as you say that.
And then
you're right, in man. You're keeping that.
When your wife asks you at the shop, you say, "No, I'm too tired."
Yeah.
So, we sort of said, well, let's get a lot of, I was lucky that there was still a lot of fellas who were interested in semi-running around, So they got started off, and then each club started off their own teams, and we're here where we are now. 10 years, 11 years. This is our 11th year, I think, coming up next year.
Oh, for Wellington.
For Wellington, yeah.
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 I mean, Phil, what I think's really acknowledge and credit to yourself is around driving that thing around health, particularly for men into their 30s and 40s, and also that, and particularly because the health stats don't favour Pacific, Māori, and even Te Ali and I in our cohort, a number of our friends and former teammates in that, a number of health issues that are attributable to just that sort of static lifestyle after being very active in their teens and 20s.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that hits us. I mean, like everybody says, as soon as they stop playing, they get on crazy fad diets because they think, what my advice to people was saying, hey, if you keep active, you can still eat those foods because there's nothing wrong with your body when you eat them when you're playing. All you have to do is you got to match your exercise to the plate. No use eating a 10-ton plate when you're only going to walk 5 meters. Hey. So you've got to, like I tell everybody, don't stop eating. Don't stop eating the food that you were brought up with because that's how you're brought up. But what you got to do is, if you're going to eat it, do the same amount of work or less than that food. Less than what you eat, but still eat it. But instead of having 3 taro, you have 1.5. Yeah. Instead of having one,
have 2 if you're going to have 1.5.
Yeah. And instead of having 5 pork bones, you have 2.
Yeah. So it's
You
what
know,
you put in your waha is what you should be putting out energy-wise in exercise. Eh?
yeah, well, if you treat your body like a car, you have to. If you're going to go 500 miles, you got to fill up to match that 500 miles. So if as a person, if you're only going to walk 10 meters, well, you only need to put in that much gas to go 10 meters. You know, you're not going to run from here to Auckland. So don't eat 3 plates.
Yeah, I know you always you're a good advocate for men's health when we get together in the Masters fraternity in Wellington. You're always mentioning, yeah, guys, you just keep what we're doing, get off the couch, try and introduce more guys or even wahine, get everyone involved just to keep moving, like you say.
Yeah.
And like for yourself, obviously you've got your background from martial arts from way back and all of that, all those disciplines that you've learned, it's still showing now. That's why that's why you can keep up with me.
Don't get me wrong, I can eat junk food just as good as anybody else. But then I've got to look at it and go, did I really need to eat all that? So instead of saying, well, tomorrow I'm going to have another lump, you just say, I've got to do something first to earn that. It's the same as like, I'm not saying that everybody should drink. The best, if you can't drink, don't drink. Alcohol I'm talking about. If you can't drink it, don't drink it. I always say just it's all about how much,
moderation.
I tell everybody, if you want to have a beer, have a beer. But but if you're going to have a whole lot of a drink, pick a drink that's not going to make you flabby. Maybe you need to drink a red wine or something instead of a half a dozen bottles of beer. Just drink 2 glasses of red wine. I'm not saying you've got to abstain from alcohol altogether. Otherwise, people won't do anything. But the number one is that what we do is get guys to the game, and the biggest part of your health, Buzz, to me, is being together with other people. That's just health.
Yeah.
Sometimes what we do is we lock ourselves away in a cupboard, and we don't come out. Even though you get invited, you don't come out. I've known a lot of fellas that that have played really top league, and they used to come out. They used to do this, they used to do that. They won't come out now because they feel like they're out of place. Because I used to be a tough bugger. I used to be strong, and I can't do it anymore. So I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to come out. What we got to do is encourage you fellas. We're not asking them to come back and be Kiwis again. We're asking them just to come out and be friends. They can go out, have a bit of a jog, have a bit of a kai, have a bit of a drink, and have a bit of a get together and laugh like we used to laugh before. That's number one. We don't do anymore. We don't joke and we don't laugh enough. If you laugh heaps of times, your puku can get stuck into tight. Get tightened up. So that's your 50 press ups when you laugh.
I better keep laughing then.
And Phil, that's really important. I think the social interaction and just connecting again and staying sort of connected is really important. The physical, you create that environment for players in the Masters that they can do whatever sort of contribution they make on the sideline or on the field. They can do it. I know still a few still think they're playing Premier football or that, but I think overall the camaraderie and that I think is really beneficial, just in terms of people's physical health, but also just the mental and the connection health.
Yeah, and that's why people think just because that they think of mental health as that you've gone off your rocker. Hey, mental health is being able to go out and meet people, talk to people, and then you get that. Say all of us was brought up as whānau, and we have those laugh, and only whānau know how to joke. You might go to another whānau and then you hear this joke that someone's telling you, what was that about? And they're all laughing. Their cheeks are puffing because they're laughing so much, but you haven't caught their joke, but they got it. You know what I mean? That's what we all need to do, is get involved in that sort of stuff to keep looking after ourselves. And that's what says mental health is not because you're gone dungi. It's mental health could be that you're lonely, or you're lacking somebody asking you, come out. That's what we do, us and Charlie, when we meet some of the older boys. Says, bro, you don't have to come out and play. Just come out.
Just come out and then
Come out and
just
sit on the
enjoy the day.
sideline and have a
Yeah.
chat.
Don't have to run.
Don't have to run. Yeah, put your sun hat on and come out and have a laugh. Laugh at all these fellas fall in, and you can yell at you can yell out to them, you stupid old fool.
And then have a good cry after.
Yeah.
What's good is actually seeing a couple of the guys, you know, that I've played with over the years actually participating in that, which I think is really good. And so I think, you know, Phil, you know, that environment that you create across all the clubs, and that's, you know, it does sort of draw people back, and I think it's really good for everyone's sort of well-being to be able to do that.
Yeah, you know, we've got ex Kiwis, you know, that just want to come out. I mean, like you were saying before, you don't have to relive your premier days because everybody knows what you've done. You've got nothing to prove. Even if you want to hop on the paddock and pass 2 passes, run 10 steps, and then come off, you've done your work. You've played for the Kiwis. You know, you've done all that stuff. Nobody can take that away from you, and you're not going to get it back by going to prove it.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, that's right. Now you two guys are off to Australia in a couple of weeks, or even in the
couple
next
of days,
week.
mate. In a couple of days.
Yeah, I've lost the track of time. So, what you guys looking forward to the Gold Coast, and also, you know, what opportunity does it sort of present in terms of the guys that you'll take across?
Well, it's number one of the new fellas that have come across, you know, to be part of the Masters trips and stuff. They'll see that it's not about you going out there to show your big muscles. You know, like I said before, is that a lot of the players, like I think I heard you say earlier too, is that some fellas come and play Masters and they try and relive last week's game that they played for the senior reserves. It's not about that. You just go out there and play to the person in front of you. I mean, so, you know, sometimes some fellas, like they're over 50, they still run hard. But if you're a referee in the game, you say to them, "Slow down, Tiger. You're not playing premiers now." You know, but a lot of them do run hard towards you, but they know how to stop and then do the right thing. Yeah. But then you get some fellas that run hard and try and bump you to like Ken over the ground, but then they get pulled in. You have a look at Billy Wepu, for example. I mean, he can still smash people if he wants to, but he plays to the way the game should be played. I mean, but if you want to run hard at him, he'll stop you. Hey, but he plays to the rules, and you know, like it says, he could dump people, break them in half if he has to, but he just goes up to you and grabs you, holds you, to play the ball. Yeah. And you got other fellas like Yogi Rogers who's still running around like he thinks he's 30.
Yes.
You throw those balls into places.
You know, his is all skill. You know, he thinks about it. I mean, but given half a chance, he'll still be able to knock you down. But you know, his is about using the skill.
Yeah,
all those fellas that have skill, they still use them. So you know, and it's a great picture for a lot of our, like we've got a lot of fellas that never played Premier football, but we've got them off the couch. Yeah, you know, they may play thirds or senior first, but we've got them off the couch to come play, and they're playing with people that they most would have watched when they were playing senior thirds or something. So they've got opportunity to play in the same team with some of the fellas they used to watch. Yeah. So then they feel equal as well. So that makes it good.
Yeah.
So our team that's going over the GC, it's a mixture of guys that used to live here in Porirua, down in Porirua here. They had connections with St. George. A lot of them are living over there in Oz. They're going to catch up with us. Part of it as well. It's going to be a memorial time for Peter Tupua, who passed away last year. He came back and played Masters with us, but sadly passed away October last year.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we've got a lot of the ex-Porirua boys, or they used to go to the
same
college as well.
Yeah.
All going to meet up and they're going to have a run. And
how many teams are going to be participating on the Gold Coast?
It's about 40 something. Yeah. Usually, like before pre-COVID, there used to be no less than 60.
Yeah.
but it depends which country is played in. If it's played in New Zealand, you get more teams from New Zealand.
Yeah.
If it's played in Australia, you get more teams from Australia.
Yeah.
But it's like it says, you can play as many games as you want, but each team has one game a day. You have one game a day, rest day, one game a day, but you can help fill in and play for the other teams. And that's all about building camaraderie again. And
meeting, making new friends.
Players. Yeah, and meeting up with these fellas that live in Australia that you haven't seen maybe a couple of years. So it's like a welcome home party, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, you can see a couple of the boys that are expats now living across the ditch. You always sort of see them sort of gravitate towards these tournaments when they arrive in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to probably be like a roving reporter over there, do some recording that we can put onto our Blood, Sweat and Talanoa.
Oh, yeah. I've just learned if you want to help out, I've just some of our mahi that we're doing with Kohanga NZ, I've learned how to use a selfie stick that you can stretch right out. And
that's ages ago.
No. This is new technology, Chatty.
Oh, for you. You used to use the broom.
I'm actually just trying to do a program, and I'm getting called Steven Spielberg.
So you got a selfie stick that's Bluetooth that you can just press the button and.
Thank you. So you didn't wait for me to talk about that. I have got a Bluetooth selfie stick.
Oh, you have.
Our roving reporter's probably going to be asking you if he can borrow it.
Oh, I've got one.
Yeah,
bring your one.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about Masters as well. We can share our resources.
We share the resources. Look, Phil, one of the other areas that we were keen, I know we've covered all of the sport and across the number of a bit of a period of all your involvement in different sports, but also in administration, playing, coaching, and that as well. But one area I think was really good to talk to you about, and knowing sort of that background, is around the Kohanga NZ movement, and also just your involvement, which really has been sort of from that start, and with some really real giants in terms of work in that particular sort of space. So yeah, was just keen to ask you around your involvement, but also just the changes that you've seen over the 40 odd years in terms of the movement.
Yeah, no, it's like one of the biggest challenges is making sure that language survives. Like we all know that as cultural people, if you haven't got a language to communicate with your elders, you feel like you're going to be left out on some of those conversations, especially when your pakeke or your elders, they don't know how to speak Pākehā properly. And so, your ears that are not used to it is trying to pick up what they're saying. But in saying that, the language is most important. It doesn't matter what language you're speaking, but in Aotearoa, we've got Māori became a national language of New Zealand, but it's still not recognised. To me, it's not recognised properly by a lot of, not even our politicians. So my journey started right back in '79. I started working for Māori Affairs, and in Māori Affairs then it used to be Māori and Island Affairs.
Yep.
And, so the build up from there, '79 onwards, was your tūtanata, your Matua Whāngai, and before that you had the movement that these young Māori people at the university, Ngāti Toa, not Ngāti Toa, Ngātama Toa, that wanted to create that language should be part of our whole system in New Zealand. Yeah, so like I said, the simple fact is that without the language, you become a non-person, and which a lot of Pākehā New Zealanders don't understand. Even when we're talking about the treaty, I'm not saying I'm a tohunga about the treaty. All I know is when the treaty was signed, it was signed between the Māori people and the Crown. which was Queen Victoria.
Mm.
And that treaty was signed because you had the whalers, all these people coming to New Zealand, creating havoc, getting drunk. So our chiefs at that time sent a letter to the Crown and says, come and look after your people. We want to govern our own people. You come and govern your own. And that's how it's got to be. So, somewhere along the line, it must have got lost in somebody else's translation. But we also knew that treaty was between us and the Crown.
Mm.
It wasn't for all New Zealanders. It was for our time in 1840 was with the native people, which is Māori, and the Crown. Not New Zealanders, because there's no such thing as New Zealanders.
Mm.
It was Māori. That's a 101 for me on how the treaty should work.
Yeah.
But then you got all these other people interpreting it. There's no interpretations about it. It was signed.
Yeah.
How you interpret is through your lens. Like with me, I'm not anti Pākehā. I'm pro Māori.
Mm.
We deserve to get all the things that we fought for, and without getting too political about it, we were never beaten. In actual fact, we invited everybody to come over, but as long as you looked after yourself, and we'll look after ourselves. In saying that, I suppose we didn't expect to have 500,000 people all come at once when we had more than anybody else. But I didn't say that. That's right. Yeah.
Hey, get political. We got no problems on that.
So you got all these people, so-called people that think they understand about everything. We understand as Pacific people. To know us, you got to walk in our shoes. You can't just marry us and say we know you.
Mm.
Hey, you can be part of us, but you can't say you know me. So it's all that thing about people got to understand. And one of the it's not sad, but one of the things that we come across the most is even our own people that have been brought up or really colonized can't see, but they even say to me, bro, we need to get over this shit, eh? And it's what shit you talking about? Well, we can't have this us and them. And I said, well, there's no us and them. It's them and us and us. Hey, it's not about, everybody else is separated. There was never us and them. So and that's hard to try and tell your own people that have been brought up with, one of the things I find sad is that what they're trying to do is just please their Pākehā mates.
Mm.
Yeah, they don't want to get into, I said to them, you don't get into trouble with your mates. If they understand you and if they're your mates, they'll understand you. If they don't understand you, then they weren't your mates in the first place. Because to understand you, they got to go deep.
And I think some of that too is people's insecurity with their own identity. And so, sometimes it's like, well, don't put that on me. I know who I am, or I know my identity in that as well. That's your burden or your issue to deal with, not mine.
Yeah. And so there's another part to that too. I know a lot of people that can't speak Māori, fluently or properly, but their wairua is Māori.
Mm.
They can tell you, how they feel, even though they can't speak it to you. There's a lot of people like that. But language is the communicate of everybody.
Yeah. And look, we were talking off here just before we came on too, Phil, around, that in the Pacific, I was a generation just that before Aonga Mata, and also in terms of, my father didn't speak Samoan at home. So, that trying to sort of understand or make that connection, and particularly as you sort of grow up and you try to think, well, where do I fit in the world? In places like that, this is where I think the work that you've done, in the Kohanga NZ space has been really important in terms of that generation. And now we're actually seeing that generation come to fruition in power, in terms of places like Parliament and other areas, in terms of academia and business in a number of places. And so that's, that foundation that I think yourself and a number of others were able to provide has been really important.
Yeah, I was lucky that I was surrounded by what you talked about, these giants in Māoridom, one of the things that I didn't really take into myself was these, like listening properly, like with me, like I say, kei te rongo, enari kaore te whakarongo. I'm hearing, but I'm not listening. And that was sort of me. Like I said, I was surrounded by all these giants in Māoridom, and because I was working for them, that's I was there helping them. They were telling me this and they were telling me that. This was years ago. Because my biggest concern for me wasn't about Māori at that time, because I thought I knew enough, like enough to make me get through stuff. Because I was still worried about playing sport. I was still worried about doing this. I was worried about looking at girls. I had no time to really get deep into that, because I still want to hop on a football paddock. If I sit here and listen to all this, then I won't be able to play sports, which is one of the things, if I can say it, that I lacked listening to these visionary people. I knew what they were doing, and I helped them do it, but I didn't listen enough to all the stories they told me. I can pick up some, especially my own old people. They used to talk to me all the time. Tell you, then later on they come up and say, "Hey, marama kui nā kore kia koe. Do you still remember the stuff that I told you?" And you going, yeah, even though you didn't. You weren't listening. You only picked up a little bit of piece because you thought you already knew enough. And that's the thing. The whole thing about any language thing, you still don't know enough. We know enough to get past. There are times, like I say, every family is going to do this. That one time or rather, you're going to take over your whānau or your ainga. You got to front up to it. And see, that's one of the other things about language we lost during that, and happened to the Pacific too, is that during the world wars, when they went to war, the younger ones didn't go, the chiefs went. So a lot of our chiefs went to war and didn't come back, so we lost all that intelligence, Māori. Yeah, so then the next generation wasn't quite prepared for it, but they had to jump up. So we lost some sort of stuff there in between. But we still came back. We always still came back. So, and we've still got all our most of our language. But as we understand, language evolves all the time. See, with language my parents spoke to me, and to the language that parents are speaking to their kids now, because there's so many new words that have been, you've got to do stuff to. In our days, it was transliteration, like mutsuka was a car, aeroplane was a plane. So, but now you got computers. So, in our days, our parents will be going, "How to computer?"
It's probably like because I'm still on my journey with my the Cook Island language, so I understand what you were talking about. Like, I was going to like Hui's with my dad, and like you said, sit there, but you can hear what they say. But I was like, okay. yeah, you can hear what they say when you're like this. Okay, yeah.
And that's a great challenge to ourselves, like when we have our own kids. Like I try, because language starts at home. We shouldn't expect the government to keep paying money to do this. They should, but we should be doing our job as well. And it starts in our homes. Like we talked about how all the sports stuff starts. It starts at home. So you got to, if you want to increase your language, you got to start with your own kids, start with your own grandkids, and then I saw this guy. He had a dog, just him and his dog. His dog only knew how to understand Māori. I don't know if it barked in Māori, but it listened to him in Māori. When he called it, it came to him. So that's what we do in all our indigenous stuff. As islanders and Pacific people, we all do that. We got this thing that we can talk to trees, we can talk to birds, we can talk to the whenua, and that's go back to that thing again. When you start doing that, when you're doing your own kōrero to yourself, or doing your own prayers and incantations or ruruku or whatever, people say, "Oh, look at that mad fella. He's talking to himself." But then sometimes you got to recite some stuff to make sure that you're going to be well looked after. Hey.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kohanga Reo is. I've been there for this time, and sometimes it can be really, really good. Sometimes it can be really, really bad, especially when you're dealing with government departments that where they set rules for certain things. See, like when we do stuff, if you get a bunch of money over here from somebody, and even though you want to buy a car, you say, "Shit, this is going to be better over here. Let's bring it over here so we can buy a couple of boxes of kai for this lot." I'm only using this analogy that when government gives you money, it's ear tag for only one position only. If you don't spend it, they take it back. What I'm saying is, under our tikanga, if we've got this money that's been given to us, but it needs to be put over here.
Yeah.
But in government rules and regulations, it was earmarked for over here, and you didn't use it over there, you give it back. To me, that's a lot of waste of time, But we're still dealing with that sort of situation. And,
Yeah.
a lot of our Māori people that were in places of management, they got into trouble because they did that sort of thing. They weren't stealing; they just shifted one afi
to another course.
to afi over here. It wasn't they didn't spend it themselves. It was still in the kaupapa that you set up, but it was ear tag for there. And
yeah, look, and then this is that thing around walking between worlds. Like if you're, like, and people would say, "Well, you're a public servant," but if you asked me to come to work and be myself, bring my whole self to work, or you ask me to work in this particular space, which is one that I know, then there's got to be an element of allowing that sort of we walk between worlds, not just that it's this way or that way, because then it's very much suited to you're still holding the string or the thing to it. It's not actually, like you say, given in that way that it's an investment in terms of for the community to actually thrive.
Yeah. Even like just give a story about when we were Kohanga Reo. Our CEO at that stage was Eri Tana Tawhiwhirangi. She made this money that the government used to give money for buildings, right? But the amount of money they gave you can only build 2 buildings a year. And what we said to, what she said is the $1 million was only going to buy 2 or 3 buildings. What she said, you give us $1 million, whānau will come and ask for some money, and we could build 20 kohanga with that $1 million. The idea being was that you borrowed the money out of that million, the whānau did, and they paid it back. So you still had $1 million on call, whether you built 10 kohanga or 20 kohanga. But like I was saying, it didn't go too well with government because you only earmarked $1 million. How can you be that bloody bright and build 20 kohanga with $1 million? Hey, it didn't feel sharp to them that they only gave $1 million and we've saved them 20 million.
Yeah. Yeah, couldn't.
Like it says, under our tikanga, it's public money, and we only gave it to you to use to build 2 kohanga, not build 10.
This is, I think they would, if it was done in any other way, they'd call it innovation.
Yeah, well, they just about call it fraud.
They'll have to put a new committee together for that then.
Oh, mate, it's listening to the noise that comes out of Parliament at last from our so-called coalition partners. I'm not quite sure. Is Seymour a Cook Island name?
Well, yes.
Probably.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if there's any Cook Islanders listening to this. It wasn't interpreted to be cheeky. I'm just giving Charlie a bit of a stick.
Charlie, you notice he didn't say Samoan, he said Cook Island.
Yeah. Cheeky bugger.
But Phil, look, definitely, I think in terms of legacy, 40 years, in 2022, in terms of the movement, over 400 Kohanga reo now across the country. I think, a real tribute to those that have really worked in this particular space, including yourself, and that legacy, I think, is a very powerful one.
Yeah, I'm just a wee bit of that legacy, that because there's hundreds of people. All I had to do was transfer the knowledge of policy on how they can work out in the Kohanga. So I was lucky that I had a lot of good people that helped me do this job. You can't, like I say, in anything in our job that we do as people, you can't do it by yourself.
No.
You got to have, it takes a tribe to raise a child, so to speak. And that's, I just happened to be working for Kohanga, and my job was to go out there and give the resources to the whānau and get them to help me to pass on all those resources. So it's the same thing what we do with our own people, to get them on a healthy lifestyle thing. You can't just do it yourself. I'm lucky I had people like your fellow selves and Chari, and some of our guys that have been on our journey for the last 10 years. Chari.
Yeah.
So we've made this thing work.
And, I started 2012, I think, with the Masters Wellington.
Yeah.
And then getting involved with our international side and continuing with that, and you're starting to see a lot of the older guys now sort of just, to the side in our international team.
But the thing is too, is like that's what Charlie's just finished talking about, is any type of work that you do, you got to have a good succession plan.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't stop because you're gone. When we first started doing it, I was doing it. Then we got people coming in, Chari, and I got Chari and Manu now, and then Chari is getting some other people in to come to help out. So you got to keep having the succession plan. It doesn't matter whether it's rugby league, same in Kohanga reo. If you don't have a succession plan, you can't always be like when they talk about people sitting on a pie, you got to build those positions up, and it's the same with your language. You got to keep building it up.
Yeah,
and wouldn't it be massive to, I like hearing other ethnic people talking their reo. Some people tell you to be quiet. Can you speak so I can understand? Well, I wasn't talking to you. Okay, I'm talking to that person, not you.
Well, that's it thing around.
We've got to be brave enough to say it. If people tramp us out and say, "Can you stop speaking your language?" You say, "No, you start learning it."
Yeah, I also think sometimes people that talk about that, it's like, well, welcome to my world, walk in my shoes.
I can't remember who said it. There's a big debate about it. Says, I think it was Media Simpson, Media Simpson, talking to this reporter. He says she told him to stop talking, and she said to him, "I can understand your language, but you can't understand mine. So if I talk to you in my language, would you tell me to be quiet? So stop telling me to be quiet," she said.
Phil, I mean, I think we've covered through a few areas, and really grateful in terms of your sharing around that. Some as we sort of close out, any final thought in terms of as we close?
I think one of the main ones is that don't think that you're there by yourself in anything. Like if you're feeling down and out or something, give somebody a call. There's always going to be somebody to listen. And that's one of the biggest things we got to learn to do is listen. Sometimes we're not going to be able to help, to what the problem might be. But if we listen, then we'll find somebody else that can. Hey, and the other part about it is that we got to get together more often, have fun more often. Nothing's that bad that you have to be serious all the time. See, like we're all still young boys at heart. Hey, we're also young boys at that. The only trouble is that we can't run like those young boys, but we can still talk like them.
I reckon.
Yes, correct.
Hamstring.
Oh, hips.
Well, Phil, look, I really have appreciated sort of the time and talking with us, and really congratulations on just really a wonderful sort of involvement across sport, across your professional work in terms of Kohanga and and just you really bring a lot of real good learnings, and I'm really grateful in terms of having been able to share that tonight. And also congratulations around the work you're doing in Masters. I think the benefit you provide a lot of men now in our sort of age group and cohort, and that is really beneficial. And having that support network there, I think is just something that again, it's just to contribute to your service over and across many things that you've sort of involved yourself in. And this latest one been really important, particularly for us as a cohort who do have a lot of issues that a lot of the wider New Zealand public don't necessarily have for men our age. And so having people like yourself provide some leadership and provide some support and guidance in that area is just really important. So whawhate tele lava in terms of the work you do.
Ngā mihi, kia ora, tēnā koutou.
Yeah. Kia ora ana, Phil. Yeah. No, I guess on behalf of Tahau as well, you appreciate your time with us tonight, and sharing your journey as well. No doubt we'll catch up soon.
Ka boy. Ngā mihi, chaps. Great talking to you.
We definitely want to. We'll probably get a bit of a few sound bites while you guys are in the Gold Coast. So we'll get that on too as well. And say this guy will get that thing off you.
Yeah, you can bring your selfie stick.
Bring your selfie stick. So everyone, thank you for into our 10th episode. And so we're in double figures now. So, thank you to those in terms of supporting the page, the Facebook page and that as well. So join the page for those that haven't. And also the YouTube link that we have where we put up all of our episodes. And we'll be taking a bit of a hiatus next week while Te Ale is in Australia. Me and Tahau might be doing a couple of things while everyone's away, but we'll be back on the 8th of October when our roaming reporter down there is going to be doing a bit of a review about the Masters and the trip, and also a few of the antics that obviously the boys will obviously get up to on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, we do a lot of baking challenges and about that, eh?
I'm sure you guys are going to do that and have a lot of fun. So, Phil, Te Ale, definitely have a bit of fun while you're on the Gold Coast. We wish all the teams well, and all of the fellowship and the guys that you'll have a bit of fun. And we'll see everyone on the 8th of October.
Ka pai.
Ka kite.
Ka kite.